I'd been in the house less than 48 hours when the knock came. Not a friendly knock, not a curious neighbor knock. This was a command knock, sharp, rapid, entitled. The kind of knock that assumes compliance before the door even opens. I was standing in the kitchen, coffee in hand, staring out at the lake that had sold me on the property in the first place. Glass, smooth water. Morning fog rolling off the surface. A wooden dock stretching out from the shoreline like it had been waiting for me specifically. I set the mug down and opened the door. There were 6 of them. 3 men in polos with embroidered logos. 2 women holding clipboards like weapons. And 1 older man in the center, arms crossed, chin lifted, eyes already scanning my porch like he was inspecting a failed project. The woman in front didn't wait for introductions. You need to stop using the lake immediately. I blinked. Good morning. This property, she continued, tapping her clipboard, is subject to community access regulations. The lake is shared HOA property. You are not authorized to restrict usage. I laughed, actually laughed, because I thought this was a joke. Some kind of awkward welcome ritual. You're kidding, I said. The lake is literally on my deed. That's when the older man stepped forward. I'm Richard Bell, president of the Lakewood Shores Homeowners Association, he said. And no, we are not kidding. The previous owner allowed community access. That agreement carries over. I leaned against the doorframe, suddenly very calm. Funny? I said, because I read every page of my closing documents. No easements, no access rights, no agreements, nothing. The woman with the clipboard flipped pages aggressively. That's not how this works, she snapped. The docks, boat slips, and shoreline have been used by our residents for over 20 years. And, I replied, and that establishes community rights. I smiled. No, it establishes habit, not ownership. The temperature shifted instantly. One of the men scoffed. Look, we're trying to be reasonable. Families fish here. Kids swim here. You can't just move in and lock everyone out. I didn't lock anyone out, I said. I moved into a house I legally purchased. Richard's voice hardened. We expect you to sign the lake access continuation form by the end of the week. He held out a single sheet of paper. I didn't take it. Instead, I said, You're trespassing. The word landed like a brick. The women gasped. One of the men laughed nervously. Richard's eyes narrowed. You don't want to start this way. Oh, I said. I didn't start it. You showed up at my door demanding my property. They left soon after, but not quietly. As they walked back down the gravel drive, I heard one of them mutter, We'll handle this. That night, I noticed headlights near the lake. The next morning, there were fresh footprints along the shoreline, and by the 3rd day, someone had tied up a pontoon boat to my dock. That's when I realized something important. They weren't asking. They were used to taking. So I did what any reasonable person would do. I made some phone calls. I pulled some records, and I discovered something the HOA never expected me to notice. The lake wasn't the only thing I owned. The HOA called an emergency meeting. I wasn't invited, but I attended anyway. They were gathered at the community center overlooking the far side of the lake. About 50 residents. Folding chairs. A projector displaying a map that looked suspiciously like my property lines, except altered. Richard froze when he saw me walk in. You can't be here, he said. I can, I replied. This is a public meeting held in a publicly rented building. Murmurs rippled through the room. Richard forced a smile. We're discussing a misunderstanding regarding lake access. Perfect, I said. So am I. I walked to the front and plugged in my own flash drive. The screen changed. Up came county records. Then dock permits. Then a series of very uncomfortable-looking diagrams. Does everyone here use the docks on the lake? I asked. Nearly every hand went up. Boat slips. More hands. Maintenance paid by the HOA. Confident nods. I clicked to the next slide. Those docks, I said calmly, are not HOA property. Confusion. I zoomed in on a document stamped and signed. They're privately permitted. Installed under a commercial lakeshore license. Richard stood up. That's impossible. Oh, it's very possible, I said, because the original developer lost the permit 22 years ago. Gasps filled the room. The HOA never owned the docks. I continued. They were leased, illegally maintained, and never transferred. I turned to Richard. And guess who acquired the controlling license last month? Silence. I did. Someone yelled, "What does that mean?" "It means," I said, "that while you don't need permission to look at the lake, every single dock, slip, and boat tie off is under my authority." Richard's face went pale. I clicked again. Effective immediately. I read, "All unlicensed docks must be removed or brought into compliance by the license holder." A woman in the back stood up. "That would cost hundreds of thousands." "Yes," I said. "It would." Richard slammed his hands on the table. "You did this out of spite!" "No," I replied evenly. "I did this because you tried to take something that wasn't yours." I looked around the room. I was open to friendly access agreements. Fishing hours. Shared use. Simple respect. I paused. You chose intimidation. The meeting ended in chaos. Within a week, the HOA received official notices. Within 2 weeks, dock usage was suspended. Within a month, Richard resigned. Eventually, a new board approached me, not with demands, but apologies. We worked out a fair, written agreement, limited access, shared maintenance, clear boundaries, and the lake, still peaceful, still quiet. Only now, everyone understands something very important. You don't get to storm in and claim what isn't yours, especially when you never bothered to ask who really holds the power.